I used to think that being alone was a punishment, that silence meant loneliness, and that stillness meant I was doing nothing. But somewhere along the way I realized being alone is not a weakness. It's a secret weapon. It's in those moments when the noise fades and the world stops watching that we truly begin to build ourselves. Society teaches us to seek validation, to constantly be surrounded, to be liked, to be followed. But here's a truth they don't tell you. Real strength isn't built in crowds. It's built in solitude. It's built when no one is clapping for you, when the cameras are off, and when you're sitting alone with your doubts, your dreams, your fears, and you don't run away from them. There's a fire that only lights up in silence. When you strip away distractions, you meet the rawest, truest version of yourself, the version that isn't performing, the version that's not afraid to be honest. And it's in that space, in that quiet self-confrontation, that you start shaping your future. I remember nights in hotel rooms across the world, cities where I didn't know anyone, rooms where my thoughts echoed louder than anything else. And in those moments, I could have chosen to feel empty, but I chose to feel available for growth, for discipline, for a vision that was bigger than my comfort. Being alone is a privilege. It's the opportunity to hear your own voice without the opinions of the world drowning it out. Use that time. Don't fill it with noise. Don't rush to cover it with company. Sit with yourself. Dream, plan, heal, learn who you are when no one is watching, because that's the foundation no one can shake. And I want every woman, every man hearing this to understand. There's nothing more powerful than someone who can stand alone and still feel whole. You don't need a relationship to complete you. You don't need a crowd to define you. You need you, a stronger you, a wiser you, a fearless, beautifully evolving version of yourself who's willing to be patient in the process. So if you're alone right now, don't run from it, own it, embrace it. Be proud of it, because the person you're becoming in that space, that's the person the world won't be able to ignore. Be alone, build yourself. And when you come back to the world, come back so unapologetically powerful that they'll never doubt you again. Being alone is often misunderstood in our culture. It's seen as something to be fixed, a void to be filled, a sign that something is missing. But the truth is, being alone is one of the most powerful positions you can be in. It's where real strength begins. In solitude, you aren't weakened. You're being refined. When you're alone, you're not distracted by the voices and opinions of others. You're not conforming to fit someone else's expectations. You're simply with yourself, and that is where authenticity grows. There is something incredibly empowering about realizing that you don't need anyone to validate your existence, that your worth isn't dependent on how many friends surround you or who text you back. When you are alone, you learn how to sit with your thoughts, how to observe your feelings, and how to begin the journey of truly knowing who you are. That self-awareness is the foundation of strength. Because once you know yourself deeply, no one can shake your sense of identity. People who fear being alone often search for validation in all the wrong places. They attach their confidence to relationships, to social media, to noise. But those things are temporary. They're fleeting. And the moment they disappear, so does your sense of worth, unless you've taken the time to build it on your own. Solitude allows you to build confidence that isn't built on applause but on self-belief. It allows you to walk into a room and not need to prove anything to anyone, because you know your own value. Being alone teaches you resilience. It trains your mind to be self-reliant, to handle discomfort, and to move forward even when no one else is watching or cheering you on. That's where the true warriors are formed, not in the spotlight, but in the quiet. When you face your fears without a crowd to hide behind, when you cry without a shoulder to lean on, and when you rise again without anyone even noticing, that's real strength. So many people avoid solitude because they think it's empty. But in truth, it's full of possibility. It's a blank canvas where you get to paint the kind of life, the kind of mindset, and the kind of self you want to be. It's not a weakness to be alone. It's the birthplace of power. And the people who understand that are the ones who walk into the world not needing attention because they've already found their power within. Real transformation doesn't happen when people are watching. It doesn't happen in front of an audience under the spotlight or when you're performing for approval. True growth unfolds in silence when there's no noise to distract you and no eyes to impress. In those quiet moments, you begin to confront your truth. You begin to ask yourself the hard questions. Who am I? What do I want? What am I willing to change? These aren't questions that can be answered in a crowd. They require solitude, introspection, and stillness. They require a willingness to sit in the discomfort of not having everything figured out. When you're alone and there's no one there to affirm you, you're forced to look within, and that is where the real work begins. Growth is not glamorous, it's messy. It involves breaking down, questioning your patterns, and letting go of versions of yourself that no longer serve your future, and all of that happens in the silence. In the hours when the world is asleep and you're still awake with your thoughts. In the moments when you choose discipline over distraction, healing over hiding, and rebuilding over reliving the past. The noise of the world often shields us from doing the inner work. When we stay busy, we don't have to face what's hurting. We don't have to acknowledge the parts of ourselves we're afraid of. But when we remove the noise, when we step away from the constant stimulation, we are finally forced to sit with what's real. That's where breakthroughs happen. That's where growth becomes inevitable. In silence, you begin to hear your inner voice again, the one that gets drowned out by opinions and expectations. That voice is your compass. It knows your purpose. It knows your strength. But you have to get quiet enough to hear it. And once you do, you begin to make decisions not from fear or pressure, but from alignment and intention. There is something sacred about the process of evolving in private. It builds a kind of confidence that doesn't need to be broadcast. It's rooted in depth, not surface, in truth, not trend. And when you do return to the world, you carry a presence that can't be shaken, because it was built in silence, in truth, and in your own time. Growth is not always loud, but it's always powerful. And when it happens in silence, it lasts. In a world that constantly bombards us with opinions, expectations, and noise, it becomes easy to lose sight of our own voice. We start measuring ourselves by how others see us, what they expect from us, or how we compare to someone else. But when you choose to be alone, something powerful begins to happen. You start hearing yourself again. Your real thoughts, your real emotions, your real desires begin to rise to the surface. It's like clearing a fog and finally seeing things clearly. You begin to ask, what do I want? What do I believe? What matters to me? And those answers don't come from the outside, they come from within. Most people are so busy trying to please the world that they forget who they really are. They say yes when they mean no. They chase dreams that aren't even theirs. They lose their essence trying to fit into molds that were never designed for them. But when you spend time alone, you peel back those layers, you stop performing, you stop pretending, and slowly you come back home to yourself. You learn to trust your instincts, you learn to honor your truth, even if no one else understands it. There is a powerful kind of clarity that comes when you're not being influenced by every voice around you. You begin to realize how many decisions you've made out of fear or approval. Seeking, you start to understand where your self-doubt came from and which voices fed it. And then, with courage, you begin to separate from all of it. You begin to claim your own narrative. Hearing your own voice again isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it tells you things you've been avoiding. Sometimes it calls you to change, to heal, to let go. But that voice is honest and it's wise, and it's always leading you toward your highest self. It's easy to ignore it when you're surrounded by distractions, but in solitude, it becomes undeniable. And that is a gift. When you truly listen to yourself, your confidence starts to grow, not from what others say about you, but from the way you stand by your own truth. That kind of confidence is rare. It's magnetic and it's unshakable because it's not borrowed, it's built from within, so give yourself the space to listen, turn down the noise, shut out the crowd, and let your voice rise again, louder, clearer, and stronger than ever before. Loneliness can feel heavy, but it doesn't have to be something you fear. It can be transformed into something powerful if you're willing to look at it differently. Instead of seeing it as a gap in your life, treat it as a space full of potential. A space to grow, to evolve, to prepare for what's next. When you're alone, you have the unique opportunity to focus entirely on yourself without the distraction of trying to keep up with other people's needs, opinions, or timelines. It's not about being isolated forever, but about using that temporary season as fuel for your transformation. In those moments when you feel forgotten or disconnected, you're actually being given a chance to reset. You're being handed uninterrupted time to strengthen your mind, your goals, your self-worth. You can build discipline, whether it's committing to your passions, developing new habits, or letting go of toxic patterns. You can also allow your heart to heal without the noise of the outside world rushing you to move on. Loneliness becomes fuel when you use it intentionally, when you allow it to work asterisk for asterisk you, not against you. Most people rush to fill the emptiness with temporary distractions. They scroll endlessly, they force relationships, they chase validation just to silence the discomfort. But that discomfort is a message. It's asking you to sit still, to listen, to notice what needs to be changed. When you stop resisting the quiet and start working with it, it becomes a powerful companion. It gives you clarity. It shows you who you are when no one else is around to influence you. That is where true transformation happens. There is a version of you on the other side of loneliness that is stronger, more focused, and more grounded. But you'll only meet that version if you stop trying to escape and start leaning into the process. Use this time to invest in yourself. Read, write, move your body, challenge your mind, realign your goals. Let your solitude sharpen you rather than silence you. One day, when you've come out the other side, people will wonder how you became so focused, so confident, so powerful, and they'll never guess it was built in the lonely moments. Because you didn't just sit in silence, you used it. You didn't run from being alone, you rose from it. That's the kind of power no one can take away from you, and it begins the moment you stop fearing loneliness and start fueling your life with it. There's a deeply ingrained belief in our culture that we need someone else to complete us, that without a partner, without a crowd, without constant affirmation, we are somehow less than whole. But the truth is, no one can complete you. Because you are not a half, you are not broken. You are not waiting to be rescued or validated. You are a complete person all on your own, and once you realize that, you step into a kind of freedom and power that changes everything. Being alone is not a sign of lack, it's a declaration that you're enough, just as you are. When you rely on others to fill your emotional voids, you give away your power. You become dependent on whether someone texts you back, compliments you, or chooses you. Your self-worth starts to swing on a fragile thread of external validation. But when you begin to truly understand your value, you stop needing constant reassurance. You stop molding yourself to be what someone else wants. Instead, you stand firmly in who you are, knowing that your worth doesn't decrease just because someone else doesn't see it. You don't need a romantic relationship to prove you're lovable. You don't need a big group of friends to prove you're likable. You don't need a packed calendar to prove you're important. The real proof is in the way you treat yourself, in the way you speak to yourself when no one is listening, in the way you show up for your goals, your healing, your growth, even when no one else is watching or clapping. That's where your wholeness is built, from the inside out. Loving yourself first is not arrogance. It's necessary. It's not about rejecting others, but about refusing to abandon yourself. When you make peace with who you are and where you are in your journey, you stop looking for someone to fix you. You realize that the right people won't complete you. They'll complement you, but even without them, you're already solid. And when you walk through life with that kind of assurance, everything changes. You no longer chase love, you attract it. You no longer seek approval, you embody confidence. You no longer beg for attention, because you've already given yourself what you need. Being whole on your own is the greatest love story you'll ever write. And it starts the moment you stop looking outward and finally see how powerful, worthy, and complete you already are. When you take time to be alone and build yourself in silence, something incredible happens. You begin to develop a version of yourself that is deeply rooted, grounded, and unshakable. This version of you doesn't rely on applause to feel accomplished or attention to feel seen. You've done the inner work, faced your shadows, healed your wounds, and grown through discomfort. So when you step back into the world, you walk in with a quiet confidence that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. You carry a presence that speaks before you even open your mouth, because it's built on authenticity and self-respect. The world is used to people who crave validation, who constantly seek to be liked, who bend themselves to fit in. But when you come back from your season of solitude, you're no longer that person. You don't need to be accepted to feel secure. You don't need the spotlight to know your worth, because your identity isn't based on outside approval. It's been shaped by inner resilience. You've taken the time to understand your values, your vision, and your voice. You're not confused about who you are anymore. You're clear, and clarity is power. This kind of energy can't be faked. It's not something you can wear for a day or rehearse in front of a mirror. It comes from a journey of solitude, of doing the hard things when no one is watching. You've built your own standards, your own peace, your own strength. That's what makes you magnetic. Not the noise you create, but the stillness you've mastered. People can feel that, they're drawn to it. Because in a world full of noise, someone who's been shaped by silence stands out. You won't need to explain your transformation. You'll show it through the way you carry yourself, the boundaries you uphold, the calm you bring into chaos. You'll no longer chase people or opportunities because you know that what's meant for you will recognize your energy. You're not desperate to be chosen. You've already chosen yourself, and that choice has changed everything. So when you return to the world after building yourself alone, return boldly, not arrogantly, but with the quiet power of someone who knows their worth and doesn't need permission to shine. That's the kind of presence that commands respect. That's the kind of confidence that can't be broken. You've earned it, you've become it, and now the world is about to see exactly who you are.